Comic Book Savant, episode 475. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, we're going to talk about some of the effects that the coronavirus has had on the comic book industry and a lot of current news hits on basically how the the industry has kind of been shifting and changing around it. Before we get into the main episode, I want to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. If you like what I do here on this podcast, you're looking for more comic book related content to listen to, it's a one-stop shop that you can go to find more comic book related content. Again, it's comicspodcast.com. The Comics Podcast Network has been around for a long time. There are literally hundreds of different comic book related podcasts there. So if you have a moment, stop by, try out some new shows. Like I said, it's a lot of great content over there as well. So if you have a moment, go check it out. Now, back to the main topic of this episode is basically we've all been dealing with this pandemic now for, depending where you are in the country, for, a month or more now. We've had, work at home, shelter in place, orders, and depending where you stay, depending how long you have, some are still currently under it. Certain areas are more strict than others. It's just been a whole, adjustment to how we're currently living our lives, working. If you're not a non-essential employee, a lot of places, some people have been losing their jobs. It's just been a really unprecedented time in history of anything that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. And it's affected everything in our lives, including our hobby that we love so much, which is comic books. So just wanted to go over some of the things that has been announced over the past few weeks. Even as before the night before I'm recording this, that I got a press release from a comics producer or comic studio or company about how they're changing their practices going forward. So the biggest news that kind of dropped that really shook up everything and brought the comic book industry to a standstill is that Diamond Comic Distributors, they ceased receipt of all new shipments due to coronavirus as of March 24th until further notice. So we all know they're pretty much the sole and main distributor for the comic book industry for pretty much all publishers. That was a big hit. So we stopped getting comics around March 24th. As of today, this morning, it's April 20th, so roughly about a month ago. Since then, an update to the story is that Diamond, sometime last week, announced that they're going to be trying to get back into business and distributing comics by mid or end of May. So we still have another month to go before they might be fully back up and operational. Now, since then, we've gotten different stances from different publishers. Initially, when this was announced, a lot of publishers, they stopped releasing their full slate of comics. As far as, of course, physically, they couldn't because Diamond pretty much shut that off. And since they're their only distributor, then they even ceased digital. And other publishers sided with Diamond in that because that could be very damaging to local comic book shops once they were able to open back up. If we've been able to get comics digitally the whole time, it would be no need to want to get the comic books physically for some people. So that could be really damaging to an already damaging situation for local comic book shops. But it was a realism for certain publishers, especially DC, that what does it look like if something like this were to happen again and kind of be held hostage by Diamond, because Diamond made the decision. I don't know if this was a group decision. How it kind of went down is Diamond made this press release, and then all the publishers kind of had to scramble to see how they were going to handle it. And that's definitely not a good situation because it hurts, it can hurt everyone. So DC talked about finding other distributors other than Diamond so they could start putting out comics to individuals. So that's something that they recently announced in a press release. I think they're using two different distributors now, other than Diamond, and they want to start returning shipping comics as of April 28th, which is going to be roughly about a week, or this week by the time you're hearing this episode. So they're going to be starting to ship comics, but it's going to be a reduced slate of comics than what normally would come out. And they're kind of pacing what books are coming out when. So they put out a press release kind of mapping out starting on April 28th through most of May. And it's going to be a reduced slate, and they're kind of spacing out the books so it's that they're not overwhelmed on how many books that are going out, and we won't be either. And trying to catch up and fill in the gaps for these weeks now we've missed with weekly comics coming out that were slated, that were done, that were completed. I don't know what it means on the digital side in that, but it's more so on the physical side. I guess whatever physical will then still be coming out digital, so that'll be monitored and like a slow rollout, ramping back up. Don't know how it's going to look with them and Diamond when Diamond starts back distributing comics, but DC found alternate measures because Diamond really has had a monopoly on all the publishers when it came to this. So it really is going to shift the dynamic on how the comic book industry and different publishers move going forward out of this. So it'll be interesting to see. Dark Horse, IDW, all suspended digital production of comics until Diamond Distributors reopens to distribute physical comics, because again they all realize how damaging it would be to the local retailers and different retailers that they have their books distributed to. So I thought that was a good thing that they did. If you guys haven't seen over on Serial at Midnight, me and Heath did a review and a discussion about My Comic Book Country. It was a great documentary based on the local comic book shops. If you haven't seen that episode, I'll put a link to it in the episode description here. So if you go to comicbooksavant.com, down below, you'll see a link to that episode where we review it. It's a great documentary. I think you can get it on iTunes. You can get it. You can rent it or purchase it as well on Amazon Prime Video. You can't buy it physically. It's just digital release it now. I think I bought it on iTunes for $12.99. I think you can rent it for like $3 or $4 on Amazon, because I think Heath rented it. I bought it, but we ended up doing a great review. And you start to get to see what it takes for a local comic shop to survive in this current climate of the comic book industry. And it was so timely to link up to what was currently happening, unbeknownst to everybody, because that documentary was worked on for quite a few years and literally just released the midst of this the corona pandemic hitting. So it was like so crazy when it came out. And it gave me very huge insight, and I thought it was very admirable that, because the publishers could have been like, screw the local retailers, screw Diamond, we're going to put these products out digitally, which probably would have spiked since everybody was at shelter at home and work from home orders. Those sales would have skyrocketed because people were chomping at the bit. We even had conversations in the Savant Society Facebook group about this same topic, and where people are clamoring for stuff to read, needing, wanting recommendations of new comics to read. So I felt like if those books were coming out digitally, even if people normally didn't buy digitally, if that's the only way they could have got the comics, they definitely would have bought them. So that is a thing where it was the right move, though some people did not like it. I thought it was a good move for the industry as a whole, because it's already hard enough for local comic book shops to survive. Some might not even be able to open back up after this if they were already, because the margins to be a successful comic shop are razor thin, as I found out in the documentary. And even for some just operate at a loss, and they just have a good community around them that still supports them in spite of. So some we might not see come back from the current state of things, which is sad to see. Even though I don't buy many physical comics, like I I talked about, if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I talked about um, a few weeks ago, a couple episodes ago, there where I traveled to Connecticut to visit family. Also on Serial at Midnight over on Heath's YouTube channel and website, he's talked about Ali's center, and you get good bargain deals on physical comics. Not well, they actually had bundles of singles as well, but as far as trades, um, hardcovers, different collected editions, and it happened to be one down the street from my sister's home. I picked up a ton of books that I'm going to be doing as giveaways, but unfortunately for me, that Corona hit, and I was going to start doing giveaways, and I kind of have to wait because the current state of things can't really be shipping out stuff to people right now, so gotta wait for that to calm down. But I posted, like, I did 2 trips. I spent about $100 worth. I got, I don't know how many books. I'm looking at them right now. I don't know, maybe like 20 books, give or take, of hardcovers, uh, some epic collections in there, trade paperbacks, the whole kit and caboodle. I picked up a bunch of stuff. Um, so I do like occasionally pick up physical comics, but I'm mainly digital. As far as what I read, what I consume are comics digitally. I just don't have the space, and we've had this conversation, over the years about my thing about physical comics, but I still love the comic book stores and the comic book industry, and I want it to survive and even thrive. So this really changes, and it's going to really be a blow to a lot of smaller local comic book shops. This hiatus, and we don't know, depending on where we are, we don't know. The president has announced, as of this recording, like a plan to come out of this shelter work at home um, orders, and getting the country back. But just more and more things are happening that are really hitting us, hard. And I've had a lot of friends to lose family right now because of this, and how certain people are practicing and not really taking this seriously, and it's just hitting so hard home, even though it hasn't directly affected um, my family, but I have a lot of family members that are essential workers that are on the front lines, and I worry about them daily, that on what's out there and what can happen and how it will affect them. So it's been tough in that way. But thinking about people losing their whole business that they've put so much blood, sweat, and tears into is a scary thing, and my heart goes out to them. So definitely, coming out of this, I might try to buy more physical comics. A comic shop here in Houston, right across the street from me. I've never been in there. They're right across the street. I might go in and just buy some comics that I might do for giveaways or what have you, just to help support when the time comes, when all this kind of dies down, and we can go out. And it's really been tough for me in that way as well, because since the shelter place or working place, whatever, has kind of gone into effect, because of all my previous health conditions, I fall into that at-risk category. So I kind of, since all this has kind of went down, I've been restricted at home, which sucks because fortunately my wife has been able to work from home, and while I was doing updates to my office, which I've talked about before, I've kind of revamped my whole office since around November of last year to now, and finally kind of put the finishing touches on it recently. We set her up as for home office. She's been working from home, but she's the main one. She has a mask. She can go out. I don't have it. Like, we've been trying to find like a mask, so if need be, I can go out. But since I fall into that at-risk category from my previous health issues, I've pretty much been locked down in the house this whole time. I can't remember the last time I went out of the house now. It's been a couple of weeks now, 2, 3-ish, I think, since the last time I was actually, before everything kind of ramped up and they were like, everybody wear a mask and all that. Been trying to find masks here has been kind of crazy. So kind of been restricted to being in the house. I know it's like super crazy. It's going to be something that we might lose some comic book shops. But if you have a local comic book shop, once things die down, or if they start making things available where you can ship or do like curbside pickup, Once comic shops start opening back up, even if you've bought digital comic books previously, try to support your local comic shop if you have one in your area. If you can do one of those things, even if you don't get all your comic books physically, just throw them some support in some shape, form, or fashion, because they're really going to need it. And if you do have the money to buy comics, if you can kind of split it up and still support your local habit digitally, but try to throw some support that way. And I know it's going to be tough because I know it's been tight and tough for everybody, me included, on how to proceed, making sure you have everything you need. And comic books are kind of a luxury thing at this point, so definitely changes the dynamic on that as well, because the effect on people, so many people are losing their jobs. Unemployment are at unprecedented highs right now. It's a strange time right now for everybody, and we're all trying to adjust as best as possible. So not really having too much to say outside of that. I wanted to hit some of the news beats. Another thing I wanted to talk about as well. I always talk about Comixology Unlimited, something they've done, which Comixology, if you guys don't know, is owned by Amazon. Comixology Unlimited is the subscription part of Comixology. I think it's $5.99 a month. You sign up, you have access to a massive library, about 18 to 20,000, if not, it's growing. It's probably more than that now, of comics that you can get with the subscription service. $5.99 a month, can't beat it. I've been subscribed to the service for I think about 2 years or so, if not more now. They normally do a 30-day trial where you can try the service out and see how you like it. Because of the pandemic right now, their 30-day trial is a 60-day trial, so you have 2 full months to try out the service. You can check out up to 50 books, borrow up to 50 books from the library of books. They have a little banner in the corner showing unlimited, and any of the books from any of the publishers you see with that unlimited banner, you can borrow as many as 50 books into your account on Comixology Unlimited at a time. As you turn books in, you can get more books out, but you only can have up to 50 out at any given time. And again, it's a massive library by all publishers: Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image. So you can check out books from a lot of different publishers. It's not going to be whole libraries of all comics, but like certain comics that have been out a long time, like Walking Dead, they have like the first half of the trades. The I think it's like, I can't remember how many trades it is, but you can get like the first half of the series through Unlimited to read as part of your subscription service. And again, not their normal 30-day trial, 60-day trials, 2 full months that you can check out the service, and it's a great service. And even after that's gone, for $5.99 a month with tax, it might be $6.50 a month. It's a great deal. I recommend it to everyone. And you get extra bonuses as well, like depending on the publisher, even when there's sales going on. So like when they have a sale where they're dollar issues, with your discount, like for Marvel or DC, you get 10 to 15% off. So like that 99-cent or dollar issue is now like 84 cents. So you still get additional savings with it as a bonus. In the rates, discount rates vary upon publisher. I think you get the biggest for Marvel, DC. Some of the independent companies, they're like 10 or 5%, but you still get a discount on when you do buy digital comics. Plus you get to check out and borrow comics to read as part of your subscription service as well. So that's a great deal. And last news tidbit, Alterna Comics just sent me out a press release. I got this just this weekend, this past weekend, that said that they're leaving Diamond and they're going to fully embrace the direct distribution market. And they've been dabbling in that for a while. I know, they sent me information, and I think they did like a digital bundle like a year or 2 years ago, that you could get for free. They put it out like on Instagram or something, and I clicked on the link, went to it, got a ton of their comics digitally for free. And they've over the past few years, they've been pushing very heavy in all their marketing. And I started following, I was following them already on Instagram, and I was seeing where they were like, hey, you can direct order comics from us that will ship directly to you. They really have been building that system up, and then that's basically what the press release has been saying, is that over the past 16 to 18 months, they've been building up their direct distribution channels, and they're going to be not just directly distributing to customers, but retailers as well. And they put in the information to If you're a retailer and you want to get their comics because they're leaving Diamond, they give you a link to a page, a website for you to go to sign up with it. And they also noted in this press release that they're going to be transitioning away from Comixology as well, and they have a site set up for that as well, where you can start buying their comics digitally directly through their digital platform. That's sad to see because the thing I do like about Comixology is that all the different publishers are up there, and I can kind of get all my comics there, and they're all in one place, neat place digitally. But unfortunately, they're going to be transitioning away. I don't read a ton of their stuff. I haven't read a lot of that stuff that I got for free. Just haven't gotten around to it, but I do plan on at some point reading some of their comics and reviewing them here on the podcast. I just hadn't got around to it. So that was just some of the random news tidbits that have, dropped over the past few weeks in relation to what a lot of publishers are doing. Marvel really as well. They haven't made as many as prominent releases. We really don't know, and people are still kind of waiting on what Marvel's going to do. Most of the publishers, if anything, if it was like digital first stuff or trade collections that were coming out, those still have been dropping each week digitally. Because some of that stuff has already been out physically. They're just being released for the first time digitally. Those are the only new books, but they are stuff that was previously released physically that are just being released for trade. So those books still have been dropping as far as trade and collection releases, but that's really it. Marvel hasn't done anything yet. I haven't seen any new update. They've kind of been following DC and everyone else's lead about not releasing new comics digitally due to, I guess, Diamond starts back up with distribution. We haven't heard anything as of this recording of when they might ramp back up. Are they looking for different distributors besides Diamond? We haven't really heard anything, and we're kind of waiting with bated breath to see what that might look like or how they're going to move, but we don't have any information as of the time I'm recording this. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. As always, I'm your host, James Harris. This is the Comic Book Savant podcast. As always, you can follow me on social media over on Twitter and Instagram at Comic Book Savant. You can check out the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/Comic Book Savant. Also, we have the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/the Savant Society, all one word. You can request to join, and once I see your request, I'll approve it. You can come right in and just join the epic comic conversations we have. We get to know each other and just have a good time. Also, if you want to support the content that I'm making, you can support me over at Patreon. It's patreon.com/Comic Book Savant. Have different tiers. The very base tier is at $1. So if you subscribe to the Patreon campaign for as little as $1 a month, with that you get the main podcast. These episodes that you're hearing now, you get them early. You get them about 3 days before they actually drop on the main feed through that Patreon at $4. And you also get a Patreon only exclusive podcast. So I do a whole nother weekly podcast specifically for Patreon supporters. So I know it's a tough time. You might not have extra, but for a little as $1 a month, I have different tiers. So they range from $1, $3, $5, top tier $7. If you can spare $1, everybody does that. It helps me a ton. It helps the content that I make and create. And you get access to a new feed. So if you love hearing my lovely voice and you want more content, I know a lot of people are cooped up in the house like myself. It's a backlog. I've been doing the Comic Book Savant Extra podcast over on Patreon for over a year. It might be going on 2 years now. So it's literally almost 100 plus episodes there of stuff you've never heard me talk about. On this podcast, they are still comic book related stuff. I have a lot of fun, different format of episodes that I do there. Like if you enjoy the DC direct release video releases, animation movie reviews I used to do here, I move those over there. The old Trade Your Pick episodes I used to do, I do those over there. So it's a lot of different fun stuff that I do over on the Patreon podcast feed as well. So for as little as $1 support, you help me out, and then you get some great content, additional great content that's a companion to this main podcast. So there's some bonuses and perks in there that make it worth your while. But with all that being said, you guys, please stay safe. Use this time to read a bunch of comics and spend time with loved ones and fix any fractured relationships that you've kind of been avoiding. This is a great time to reconnect with friends and family. I know I've been doing a lot of that in the downtime. And just please stay safe. Love you guys so much. Thank you for your support. Again, also check out Serial at Midnight for the my comic book country documentary discussion that review and discussion me and Heath has done. I have the links down there at the bottom, and we'll put the links to the Alterna Comics, to their site for their digital platform, and links to Comixology Unlimited, so you can sign up for that free trial to try it out if you haven't already. Until next time, you guys stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.